Hello, my name's Pete Ashby and thank you very much for looking at this video. It's the first in a new series on this page on creating a winning team. I'm very fortunate in my work. I work with a range of chief execs, and over some years now I've worked with a number of them and their top teams. And usually when a chief exec calls me in to work with them, we have our first proper discussion and I will say, now tell me about your top team. And the energy will go up a bit and they'll say, well, I've got this terrific chief operating officer or this great VP for sales or this great commercial director, and they'll run through the people they think are brilliant. Then they'll say, now there are one or two people I want you to sort of get to know a bit, and they'll tell me about the people they're not so sure about, and I know why I sort of become involved, and I'll say, well, that's great, we got a sense of the people. Now tell me about your team meetings. The moment I say the word team meeting, you can feel the energy begin to drop in the room. It's almost one of these iron certainties in life, and they will say something like, well, they're okay, they're not quite as good as they should be. So I say, well, tell me about the agenda, how you plan, how do you organize the meeting? And here again, usually the answer will be something like, oh, well, when I became chief executive, I was sort of given a standard agenda and it's tended to be like that ever since. Usually that's whether they got the job 2 months previously or 4 years previously. There tends to be an agenda that precedes them, which really leads to my first proposition to put to you in this video, which is to create a winning top team. As chief executive, you need to grab hold of the agenda and make it your own. I think this is incredibly important, that you have a mindset when you say, I will be ruthless about this. I will start with a blank page, open a blank page in the Word document on the screen, and as far as you are concerned, the only items that go on that agenda are those that you regard as essential for every member of your top team to be in on. That's your starting point. You need to choose them and you need to know what you want out of them. I know some people say, nearly every chief exec says, I'm probably too busy, but I think to have a winning top team, that agenda must be yours and owned by you. Why is that so important? Proposition number 2, because to be a winning top team, creativity and problem solving must come up front. The thing I've learned as a facilitator is the energy in the first half hour of a meeting sets the energy for the whole meeting. If you want a creative team, you need your first item, your first 2 or 3 items to be about some aspect of creative problem solving. My suggestion to you, for the purpose of cutting to the chase, is the sort of way of working should be one where you would say to your exec directors, every now and again, I want you to bring an item that we all have a one-to-one about beforehand, where you think progress is okay, but not as good as you want it to be. You're satisfied-ish, but not satisfied enough. And you'll come along to the meeting, you might share with us 1 or 2 options in your mind about changing things. You will pitch that to us, and then our job is to support you in getting some fresh ideas to help you move things forward in the way you would like them to be moving. What I love about that is, first of all, it plays into higher trust, because a director has to trust their colleagues to share with them something they are worried about. But secondly, it requires others to get outside their comfort zone and support one of their peers in moving their thinking on. Now that leads me on to the third proposition that, in my view, for you as the chief exec is the single most important about how you manage the meeting, which is that you play people into discussion according to their exceptional gifts. I think the knack for this is not that you're trying to achieve a 10-minute fix-it for a long-standing problem. Often the problems that lead to something being satisfactory and no better are to do with blockages in the system. Somewhere something has got stuck. There is a stuckness, and that usually takes a bit of shifting, and usually it won't be shifted in a meeting. You need 2 or 3 of you outside the meeting to go and talk to others and sort it. You need more like a small, sort of task groups, to 2 or 3 who are there with a shared mission. And so as you discuss the problem, that's where I think it's important that you are saying to various people, hey, for example, if 2 business unit heads aren't getting on and are causing rift, hey, Marcia, we all know you have this real ability to get people to sort out their stuff. Why don't you team up with Roger? Roger, bring Marcia in, take her along to a meeting maybe, and see if together you can move that one on. As you go through that discussion, you are affirming what people offer, and you are stretching them to bring them in alongside one of their peers to help them with troubleshooting. You treat everyone as a potential troubleshooter, and that's what you're doing all the time. You are developing that meeting, not so much as a decision-making body, but as a springboard for smaller numbers, 1, 2 or 3, to go away and tackle a problem together and come back to you next time and tell you where they've got to. Now, I think there's a very important challenge for you, which leads on to proposition number 4, which is that unless you can play people in as a troubleshooter, they probably shouldn't have a seat at your table. This, to me, is the key point about a winning top team. Too many top teams behave like a bunch of senior managers. They manage the machine. They do not troubleshoot. They do not lead. They do not lead together. They do not depend upon each other enough. Your job as a driver, the energizer of that team, is to make sure all the time you are creating new combinations of your directors to do that joint troubleshooting. This leads on to the last slide, and as you see these words, jazz band leadership, and you hear Miles Davis Kind of Blue just coming on in the background. The reason for that, partly, I heard it this morning, it took me right back. This came out, in 59, so 55 years ago this is. I was 7 or something then. My dad used to absolutely love this. I didn't know then what modal jazz was all about, needless to say, but this is, probably the most famous jazz album ever, because modal jazz is all about new combinations, the limitless opportunity of improvisation through endlessly new musical combinations. I think there's a lot we can take from jazz bands, the world of jazz, into leadership, and that's why some of you will know we've got our Windsor Experience for Leaders in March is on jazz band leadership, and it's around this whole proposition that in top teams, the role of the chief executive is very much to acknowledge the special individual gifts of every member of your team, to always help create those new combinations, to see people as able to improvise and be flexible and to be alongside others, but also giving them each their own moment in the sun. So they know and they are willing to stretch themselves because you see them as exceptional. And they know you value their individuality, and the team is about the combination of their individual gifts and their shared leadership qualities. Anyway, there are some ideas, part of a new series. If you're interested in Windsor, please let me know as soon as you can, and I hope this in its own right just gives you some food for thought on leading winning teams. Thank you very much for your time now. Thank you.